Oh Lord, is somebody
Is that
talking
so?
about you?
No, I'm talking about us in general.
Oh, okay.
I mean, like,
Serious.
like in general, generally speaking, like, sometimes the people you try to help are the people who like try to talk about you, hurt you the most. But then you're there for them too. You're there for
Hey,
everybody.
that's wonderful.
Yeah, you have to be.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Come on, now. You know that, man. We're here to fight for you.
that's right. Fight.
Huh?
I
Yeah,
said
yeah,
fight. There you go.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So, listen, folks, it is a Friday, and that's awesome. The weather is beautiful, apparently, but we're going to find out more about that in just a few moments. And so, for a lot of folk, they're looking forward to their first maskless weekend in over a year. We're going to talk about that and so much more on the show this morning. If you don't know, now you know. This is the Power Hour brought to you every Monday through Friday, 6 a.m. to 7 a.m. Sponsored by Power Interfaith, but the views that you hear belong to us. And by us, I mean sitting across from me, Bishop Dwayne David Royster.
And sitting across from me is the Reverend Dr. Mark Kelly Tyler.
And in studio, I
Yes.
think she's in studio, is none other than Queen Kawesa.
Coisa.
Good morning.
What's
What
up,
up?
Coisa?
Not much. It's
You
Friday.
only have us for 1 hour today.
I know. Oh, sad face.
I hear you. Probably like, oh, thank God. But
No!
All the hate calls she got, like, where's Solomon? It was all right one day, but good
people
Lord,
posting
two
on
days.
Facebook. Yeah, it's like I checked
Two
it out.
days in a row.
How was your ride in this morning?
Oh, it was smooth. Very easy. No traffic. I didn't even have to deal with anyone who was like pretending to, follow the laws of the road. Like, everybody was paying attention and braking and putting blinkers on. I was like, oh, today is a good day. All right. So it is a little chilly out. I should have brought a jacket. I should have, but it's supposed to be like in the 88 today. So I was like, it's going to be warm. I got out and I was like, ooh, it's a little chilly.
It's still that ammonia weather
It
where the
is.
temperature swings 40 degrees in the course of a day.
Yeah. So, but I would recommend like light jackets for folks if you're going out like right now. Of course, later you can ditch the jacket, but it was cold and I have short sleeves on. That was a mistake.
Oh, wow.
Oh,
I
you
feel
just
you.
came out like it was summertime, didn't you?
I did in my mind, in my heart. I
Hmm.
wanted to be warmer, but that wasn't the case.
I hear you on that one. I hear you.
Yeah.
Appreciate that. And by the way, thanks for holding us down the last couple of days. I know that's been a long journey. I know you do it every day, but we just appreciate you.
Thank you. It was great. It was a fun time had by all.
Awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, by most, let's not say all. Like I said, trust me, there's some people who are like breathing a sigh of relief today. They get, back what they had been expecting. So we're just glad to be here. So shout out to Solomon. Glad he's back on today at 7 o'clock. I mean, I like the lineup, in the mornings here because you go then from Solomon, then you go right into Charles Ellison.
Hmm.
Yeah, so WRD is like kicking up dust.
It's fire.
Dope, dope. I mean, really. So glad to see folk this morning. Asa Khalif says, morning, Queen Kawesa. Mabel is on. Jacqueline is here. Tracy, Aunt Young from the DMV. I mean, we're not just a local or regional show. This is a national show. Glad to see Wanda from out in the Harrisburg area. Raphael is ready at his keyboard, as is Tawanda and Franny and others. Hey,
You see
drop.
Kanisha out there? Yeah,
Oh,
Kanisha's
there's
there.
Kanisha. Yeah, drop a little something in the chat. Let us know that you're here, YouTubers as well. You know what I've noticed doing the other show, staying on for 3 hours and 4 hours respectively with Wake Up with Word,
Hmm.
is that like halfway through the morning, YouTube quickly outpaces Facebook.
Oh, it
Facebook
does.
starts off strong and
Yeah.
then they fade. Facebookers fade. They can't hang. And then YouTube comes on. It's like by the end of the show, it's like complete reversal.
Yep.
That's been amazing. It happened both days in a row.
Yep.
So I don't know. Facebook fans, Facebook listeners, Facebook audience, you got to build your stamina. 'Cause I'm telling you, YouTube was kicking your butt by like 8:30. It was like funny. I mean, because YouTube was almost non-existent in the first hour. But glad to see everybody here this morning. So much to talk about and so little time to do it. So first and foremost, COVID-19 restrictions in Philly. Masks no longer required as of today. Is that right? Outdoors if you're vaccinated?
Something like that.
Something like that?
Yeah. I don't remember the exact. I thought it was actually next Friday, but
is it next Friday?
Yeah, I could be wrong. Let me just look that up.
Well, let me just say, the moment Fauci said it like a week ago, it was that day.
Yeah.
It don't even matter what the city says. And you know what would be nice? If we could talk to the city's public health leader. But we can't do that because of some skeletons in the...
Oh, see, that was cold, man. That was cold. That was very cold.
No, what's cold is like hiding people's remains from their families.
Yes, absolutely.
But
they didn't get hit. Well, I mean, it's a whole thing. That whole situation was chaotic.
Well, I'm just saying it would be good to have like a health commissioner this morning.
Yeah. Well, they have a stand-in person. There's acting.
Oh, they do. Of course they do. It's the city. Yeah. They always have somebody. They always have like 3 or 4 people like lined up. So maybe at some point we can get the acting health commissioner on, and they could talk to us not this morning, but early next week about what this change means. Mabel says Facebook fans are early risers.
By the way, shout out to Nikki O. Tim out there on YouTube. So let's say where this is the city of Philadelphia's announcement, May 21st. The following changes go into effect. So restaurants can operate at 50% maximum capacity or 75% maximum capacity if they meet enhanced ventilation standards. Distance between chairbacks will be reduced from 6 feet to 3 feet. The requirement for alcohol to be served with food will end, and mask requirements remain in effect for those not seated or eating. Offices, retail stores, bowling alleys, museums, and libraries will be allowed to operate with no density limits, but mask requirements are still in effect. Catered events will be allowed to operate at 25% of occupancy limit. Food is at the table only, so I guess there's no buffets. Maximum of 250 people, including staff, will be allowed if there's no music, dancing, or alcohol. 150 if there's music, dancing, and alcohol. And outdoor catered events can operate at 50% capacity. Indoor gyms and pools, 75% capacity, or 15 persons per 1,000 square feet. Let's see, gatherings and theaters. Outdoor pools can operate with no density limits. So, yeah, there's a lot of things getting changed. However, it does look like sometime in, they're going to announce some new procedures and things around June 11th. So, yeah, I mean, a lot of restrictions are being dropped. They're being changed here. The state is in a totally different place. I think the state is pretty much wide open with the exception of Philadelphia.
Hey, so Robert Garland says buffets were health hazards anyway. I mean, you ain't never lied, man.
My sister is like that too. She hates going to buffets. She's like, I can't do it. Why? Yeah. Why is it that black folk are germaphobes, man? I'm just really curious.
Germaphobes? I'm not a germaphobe, but have you ever? I mean, just listen.
No. You didn't let me finish.
Oh, go ahead, please.
So, I mean, my sister, like, and my dad, right? Like, do not do, like, you can't drink after them. You can't eat off their plate. You know, my sister can't deal with, like, going to buffets because she just, like, too many people breathing over the food and everything, even with the sneeze shields and everything. Yeah. So, you know, but I always find that very amusing.
Well, first of all, I don't let anybody drink after me either. You know,
I don't either. Look,
it's yours after that. You know?
Honestly, I hate it when my wife does this to me. She's like, "Oh, let me have some of what you got. You know, let me take a bite." I'm like, "You can have it."
Yeah, I'm telling you. I mean, so look, I mean, it's so right. So buffets. I don't know how we got to this, but thank you, Robert, for nothing. You totally like just blew up our rundown. But yeah, so if there's some good that's come out of this, maybe that's one. Just stop it. I mean, if you just pull up a chair and just sit kind of opposite of the buffet,
right,
and you just sit there for a while and you watch people go through, And then you watch the people who go back to their tables, watch them for a while, and then watch them come back, and then ask yourself, do I really want to go back up to that buffet? I'm just saying, bro. I'm just saying.
No.
Yeah.
I don't have a problem. I understand.
So
and
yeah,
there's always that one crazy person that goes up there and starts sticking their hand in the food and then pull this to taste.
Oh my God! All right, yeah. Let's move on because now we're about to. Nobody's going to have breakfast this morning. We're about to see like all the numbers on Facebook crash. You're like, I can't listen to this. Yeah, I don't know, Raphael. Golden Corral may have to shut. No, they're not going to shut down. They'll just change their procedures. Lois. That's a no for her on the buffet when we return. And so, so some things are changing, absolutely, for sure. Nikki O10, people are nasty. So so as we talk about going back, now you read that list of all the different recommendations for like libraries, museums. Schools have had a lot of attention. I just saw an announcement yesterday, a joint announcement with the superintendent of Philadelphia schools and the head of the teachers union. They were standing together making an announcement. But you know what? I'm feeling a little bit some kind of way. Okay. Because for once again, they've left houses of worship out. So synagogues, mosques, masjids, temples, churches, we got no guidance in the very first days of the pandemic. That same list that you just read is kind of the list that they, were looking for. And all of us had to figure it out, right? And I mean, You're talking about a substantial amount of people in society, like 60 to 70% of people in society identify in some kind of way religiously and attend one of those places that I just named on at least a monthly basis. I mean, clergy, we'd love to say weekly, but we know better than that. I mean, we see somebody once a month, they think they're regular and good standing. But I mean, that's another soapbox. But then as soon as the pandemic hit hard, who did they turn to for messaging? Clergy, we need y'all to help us get people to wear masks. Clergy, we need you all to help us get people to stay indoors. Clergy, we got new guidance. We want to get the vaccine. Will you all take the shot so that people will feel safe? Sure, we're there for them throughout the pandemic. And then you roll out an advisement, and it's not just the city of Philadelphia. The CDC and everyone else is really not much better in the messaging. And remember, they get us worked up to make us think this is like nothing's going to change until the end of the summer. So we're kind of all forecasting and meeting with our congregations about reopening in the fall. And then all of a sudden, without warning, you all are like, hey, never mind. It all changes this week. Huh? So then we're left once again trying to figure out, and this is important, people, because, you need guidance. You don't want to just throw your doors open because houses of faith and houses of worship interact in different ways.
That's right. Absolutely.
Especially if you are shouting church.
Shouting, sweating,
Oh, come on, man. Shouting in there without a mask on and you got COVID. That ain't, the mothers normally get around you in a circle, but I don't know now.
Yeah.
You may be shouting by yourself.
There is this advisement around gatherings in theaters, right, which says they're allowed to operate at 50% occupancy, but it's only a minimum of 3 feet distance between persons of different groups. So, but I don't know that necessarily qualifies as church. And then there's a difference between going to a traditional mainline church and going to a Black Pentecostal Apostolic church, right? There's just a difference. There's a little bit of a difference between those two, right? So
touch your neighbor. Turn to your neighbor. Tell them, neighbor.
There's a little difference in between going to, a congregation where everybody's seated and when they sing the hymns, they mumble them anyway versus full-throated praise and worship where people are crying, waving their hands, calling out to God, falling out and out. There's a difference.
And don't even talk about the preachers. We are guilty too. My tablet, I don't want to tell y'all what it looks like after Sunday. It's like, oh my God, that's disgusting. So we are, you got the singing, there is a lot of contact, right?
Yeah.
That was, look, in all seriousness, Kojic took a lot of hits early on because there was a major funeral right in March of last year, right as and people were still unsure about what was going on, and they lost a lot of their leadership. A lot of Kojic bishops caught COVID and died as a result of that, and a lot of their members as well. And so this is, we make light of it, but there is a real serious nature, nature to this. And I think that again, it just kind of shows the relationship. Sometimes people forget the people who have helped them, right? So it's like you lean on us, lean on us, lean on us. We even opened up I got my vaccination in a church. Mm-hmm. Right, Church of Christian Compassion opened its doors to let, people get vaccinated. Others got their shots in places like Salem Baptist Church and Enon Tabernacle, all throughout this city and all throughout this country. And then you roll out the recommendations and you miss something very important. And I just want to say they need a corrective. I'm going to be reaching out to them and saying that you need to issue specific guidance for houses of faith and houses of worship, because folk don't know right now. And members are calling us. They're like, well, Rev, what's up? Can we come back now?
I mean, this is actually an interesting conversation because I'm having this in my church, and DC is opened up for congregations. But I'm reminded the very first COVID death and COVID cases came from a pastor that had traveled and brought it back to his congregation. So, I'm very cautious about opening back up right now.
Well, look, let's take a quick break. It's 6:21, and when we come back, we'll talk about this and some more. We've got some stories that I know you want to get to, in particular the mayor of Chicago, black farmers, what's happening with them, and just kind of a week in review recap as well, briefly, if we can. This is the Power Hour. Hit the share button on Facebook Live, on YouTube, send it out to your friends and families, and hey, whatever you do, don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Mm-hmm.
Stage Door, focusing on arts and culture in and around Philadelphia. Hosted by Tiffany Bacon and co-moderated by Jeffrey Page of the Philadelphia Theater Company. Part of The Source, Fridays at noon, exclusively on WURD Radio, 96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD. Streaming live on WURDradio.com, the WURD Radio app, or watch live on WURD TV via Facebook and YouTube. Sponsored by New Voices sponsor Comcast, NBC Universal, and Pico.
Clark Roofing Company has over 30 years of quality roofing experience, providing exceptional customer service, honesty, and professionalism. Clark Roofing is a second-generation master roofer, installing top-quality roofing systems for commercial and residential properties across the tri-state area. For fast, dependable service, call 215-365-ROOF. That's 215-365-7663.
Tune in every Saturday at 4 p.m. for the Did You Know Show with host Bryant Green, right here on WURD, 96.1 FM and 900 AM.
You're listening to WURD Radio, 96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD, independent black media.
Welcome back to the Power Hour. This is Dwayne Royster along with Mark Kelly Tyler. We're here Monday through Fridays from 6 a.m. to 7 a.m. to bring you the latest in news, happenings around Philadelphia, and, of course, our opinions. And we have plenty of those. Plenty of those.
Well, it took him a while to get off of that, off of the smorgasbord and buffet conversation. So it seems like that's where everybody just wanted to stay today. If we just kind of made the whole show about that, it would have been okay.
Probably.
Yeah, I'm looking at a comment talking about the last part of the conversation about houses of faith and the relationship between, COVID. So Brother Phil says the church was asked essentially to help last year because they know y'all still believe you're Americans, and you will follow them anywhere because of that fact. Huh? Mm-hmm. So I don't know, Brother Phil. I think it's more like because we love our members and we don't want them to die. So it's just like, yeah, if we can help, in the middle of a pandemic, an epidemic, a crisis, I think you just throw down and you just help. Not about, your in that particular case, patriotism or Democrat, Republican, Independent, Green Party. I think it's just more like, I'm here for people. Mm-hmm. My congregation first, my community after that. And, I'm just kind of here for people. And so, yeah, that's why we opened up. That's why we served food, a lot of us, because people came up with food And they were like, hey, Urban League called us. They were like, we got a ton of food. We want to spread it out throughout the city. Can you all like give some of the food out? I'm sure. Andrea Custis, of course we can. So our folk put on masks before vaccines were available. And they risked their lives to give food out, just like, I mean, you're talking about giving out food. Elder Melanie DeBose, man.
Yeah.
Our co-director at Power Live Free gave out like hundreds of meals every Tuesday during the pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
In North Philly.
Meals, boxes, man, boxes of food to help people.
Yeah.
People lined up down Germantown Avenue trying to get the food. So, yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, man. So, listen, I mean, hey, God bless you as well, and Greg and Gail, Phyllis. Sin K is in the house as well as Valerie. Ton of you all. Man, and y'all are just still on the buffets. The buffets. I love it. But I ain't going to eat at one if I don't have to.
Well, I mean, this actually might be a good segue because there's this article that was out. It's actually Roots covering it, but other folk are covering it too, around black farmers.
Yeah.
So there's been a challenge with black farmers across the country. They haven't been able to get credit. A lot of them have been forced out of business. A lot of their farms are foreclosed on. And during COVID, the U.S. Department of Agriculture, okay, let me just say that. It really wasn't during COVID. It was during the Biden administration time when they passed the American Rescue Plan that there was an intentional plan on the part of the United States Department of Agriculture to pay off the loans of black and brown farmers to give some debt relief, right? Because we're just losing.
Hold on. You mean this year? Earlier this year then?
Yeah, earlier this year.
Okay.
Yeah. So this actually is the bill that just passed in this past March. And it was supposed to be debt relief for black and brown farmers. It was really focused on trying to, help them get out of debt, help them get ahead. They've been very critical to, trying to help keep the country fed during this crisis. And so the banks that normally loan money to black and brown farmers organized themselves and sent a letter to the USDA, basically saying, if you pay off their loans, we're not going to give them money in the future because you're cutting off our profits.
Oh.
So they organized and they sent a letter to the Department of Agriculture warning that early debt relief may prevent them from giving loans to black farmers in the future. It was the American Bankers Association, the Independent Community of Bankers of America, and the National Rural Lenders Association sent a letter to Secretary Tom Vilsack, saying that paying off these loans early would cause the banks to suffer lost income due to the loss of interest payments they would receive over the duration of the loans. Now, let me be clear. Part of what banks often do to black and brown farmers is they wait till they can't pay the loans, and then they foreclose on their properties, and they basically bankrupt them and put them out of business.
And they charge I'm assuming black farmers get the same treatment black people get in buying homes, that they probably get more interest on their loans as well.
Absolutely. So they're higher interest rates as well.
Yep.
So, basically, there's a threat out there from the banks to black and brown farmers that if you use the USDA money to pay off your loan, there's no guarantee we're going to give you a loan in the future. I don't know how this can even be remotely legal, that this is what they're threatening to do. I really don't understand it, because this is a straight up threat to black and brown farmers and indigenous farmers across the country. Finally, the USDA, I mean, I don't know if you remember some years ago, but the USDA was really noted for discriminating against black farmers in a big way, and not supporting them, not giving them grants and other things to be able to support their farms. And this is really illegal. It's just like, it didn't say we're going to do anything about white farmers. You pay off the loans early, but if you pay off the black farmers' loans early, we're not going to give them loans.
So this is a quote from John Wesley Boyd Jr. from Baskerville, Virginia. He is a farmer, black farmer, civil rights activist, and the founder of the National Black Farmers Association. And he's questioning the plan that you just laid out. He says, do they plan to make loans to black farmers like me? Or do they want us to remain dependent on the USDA loans from the last plantation? Man, I tell you, Wow. Can't get a break. Even in farming?
And I mean, the reason that this process was initiated is that black farmers had organized themselves originally, claiming that the loan forgiveness programs that the white farmers were getting was discriminating against black and brown farmers. So this time around, the program was set up so that black and brown farmers were prioritized to be able to have their loans forgiven, and then the banks come back and basically say, we're going to not give you loans anymore.
Yeah, man, that is something else.
I don't understand how a bank can do that.
Well, yeah, we know why they would want to.
Yeah, because they're going to lose money. I mean, it's not just losing money, but they're going to lose on property that they could sell, probably for a huge sum of money after they foreclosed on it. You know, all those things. This is just evil. This is straight up evil.
Let's just be straight up now. I mean, black people and land is kind of where all this stuff started. Everything else that we're talking about, I mean, for one of the things that we say at Mother Bethel when we welcome visitors or when we have tours, we always let them know at the outset that you are now standing on the oldest parcel of land continuously held by African Americans, continuously owned and continuously held since 1791. Now there were lands that were held before that, but not continuously.
Right.
And it was not without challenge, because as I said on the show, I think yesterday or the day before, the sheriff's sale, the white Methodists tried to take it from Richard Allen and tried to sell it in a sheriff's sale to get rid of it. You think about your own families and how precarious land ownership has been, right?
Absolutely.
I mean, my family owned, so my oldest known descendant was an AME preacher, believe it or not, who was born in Pennsylvania in 1818 and eventually moved his family to Arkansas in the 1860s after the Civil War was over. And he somehow came upon 80 acres of land, and that was handed down to family members, that kind of thing. Long story short is we had 80 acres of pine land, and you know who that belongs to now. The pine tree companies.
Yeah.
I mean, man, let me tell you, trying to separate you from your land is a long. I mean, it's a long practice in this country where we own nothing. We are, renters in every situation. And so even when you have people who are like black farmers who are the most deeply invested in the land, I'm not surprised to hear this kind of story that the banks of all people, would openly say. I don't think it surprises me that that's how they felt. But the fact that, they openly are saying, no, we want them in debt.
and don't feel repercussion, right? Don't feel like there's any need to have to address this one way or the other. It's just sort of like, no, if you all do this, we're not going to loan them money. I mean, that's racially biased. I don't get that.
Whew. Well, let's see what happens with the administration, and unless we need to put pressure politically, not to let black farmers stand by themselves. I think a part of what happens though is now you start to see the difference in rural, suburban, and urban, right? And how we don't often work together as black folk, and we see our problems as unique to ourselves. And so some people may say, well, that ain't got nothing to do with us. We're not farmers. Well, yes, it has everything in the world to do with you, because it's the same force that is pushing you out of your neighborhood, giving a 10-year tax abatement to someone who comes from the outside. And then when your taxes go up in your neighborhood, I mean, giving you a token kind of tax break.
Right.
I mean, it's just, listen, I mean, it's the same thing where you can't afford to live in the neighborhood you plan to retire in anymore. You don't know your own neighborhood anymore, and you feel literally compelled to be pushed out of your neighborhood in a city, whether it's Philly, DC, Oakland, Chicago, Atlanta, Detroit, whatever, is every much the same as this conversation we're having about land.
Right.
Because God don't make any more land.
Nope. Land is locked. Land is locked. The one thing the USDA did tell all the banks is to suspend all adverse actions, right? So part of these loans are also people that are actually in default and foreclosure, and it's telling them to stop all their actions until they can figure out how much each farmer is going to receive. This is, I mean, This is just, it's evil because they want to keep going and preventing people from having livelihood and having resources. So I mean, I'll stop there, but this is just really painful. And this is one of those
Hmm.
moments, like you said, where we've all got to come together and back up black farmers.
Right. Yeah. Well, hopefully, and I don't know. I mean, so I don't know any black farmers really. Well, I take that back. I actually do. So I know some folk who have gotten into like chicken farming, for example, which
Mhm.
is pretty lucrative from what I understand. Now that there's probably some controversy in there too, but these folk work for like these bigger
Yeah,
chicken companies, regionally, and you buy up the land and you kind of are like the middle person in between.
right.
But there are a lot of folk who are moving toward that. But I do think that there needs to, even in our organizing that we talk about with power and faith in action nationally, perhaps this is an opportunity for a conversation to bring them some support that they might not normally receive.
Yeah, even though there was out there backing them up one way or the other. I totally agree
Yeah,
with that.
yeah.
I
I
totally
mean,
agree with that.
because we could use their help on some actions. I'd love to see like 100 horses in the front of one of our marches. That would change the tone.
And the smell too. But
I'm just saying, bro. People got a whole different approach. Look, they back. I mean, you think it's one thing when motorcycles roll up, but you like 100 horseback black cowboys and cowwomen coming in. That's a whole different thing. They're, whoa, whoa, where you get all those horses?
well,
These
this
are
is now
people.
making me ask the question though. So majority of Pennsylvania is actually rural, and we actually are a farm state.
Yeah,
And I'm really curious about black farmers just in Pennsylvania.
yeah.
So, you
Well, if
know,
you know any, put it in the chat if you know some.
yeah, I mean, and I'm not talking necessarily about urban farmers, right? Because that's a whole different species
Hmm.
and things that are there. But I'm really curious about like folk that actually own farms in Pennsylvania, black folk that own farms and run farms in Pennsylvania.
All right, Raphael, you got a good one today. Black folks doing chicken farming. How stereotypical. I know that some black preachers would get involved in that preaching and chicken grease. Oh my
Oh
God.
my, oh my.
You got to admit, that's funny.
Okay.
You got to admit, Raphael got us.
Yeah. Okay.
Chicken
Okay.
farming preachers.
Okay.
Cut the middleman out. Oh my God. Yes, but I mean, really, I think you're onto something, and I'm glad that you brought this story out. And seriously, in all seriousness, we should like reach out to our good friend Alvin Herring,
Mhm.
executive director of Faith in Action, and let's try to broker some kind of meeting with black. With I mean, look, we can start with the
Black
guy who
farmers.
wrote the op-ed.
Yeah.
You can start right there with him. I'm sure John
And
Wesley
he's right in
Ford Jr.
Virginia too. He's not that far away. Yeah.
That's exactly right. Have a
Yeah.
conversation, see how we can help. Because again, they love to kind of like partition us off, and it's easy to get picked off when you're out there fighting by yourself. But it's much harder when you are together. Now, speaking of standing together, I love the other story that you brought out today. Lori Lightfoot, mayor of Chicago, first openly gay woman who is the mayor, black woman as well, mayor of Chicago. Lori Lightfoot said, "I'm sticking together." She said, "I'm rooting for everybody black." She says she's only going to do interviews now, these national interviews with black journalists,
Hmm.
whether it's MSNBC, Fox News, CNN, whoever. She said, "If you don't send me a black journalist, then don't expect the interview."
Right.
Wow.
Well, I mean, so this is what happened. So she was looking at the City Hall press corps and in Chicago, and she discovered that most of the press corps are white men. And she said where half of the city is black, Latino, Asian Pacific Islander, or Native American, why is it? So her basic pushback is that the press corps is all white men. And, let's be honest, right? Who you are kind of, shades how you write stories. And so she's coming up on her second anniversary of being mayor of Chicago. She understood that people are going to want to interview her about her second anniversary, things of that nature. And so she decided, and her team decided, that they would only talk to black reporters to do one-on-one interviews, like sit-down interviews. So that's really what this comes down to. This is like more longer interviews. She
Uh-huh.
said she would sit down and have conversations with black reporters. Now, there was a reporter that was Latino from another media outlet that they granted an interview for. And this particular Latino who was at the Chicago Tribune said the interview grant was requested for him, but then he said, I asked the mayor's office to lift its conditions on others, and when they said no, we respectfully canceled. Politicians don't get to choose who covers them. Greg Pratt is the reporter from the Chicago Tribune. I was like, dude, you should have like stood up and stood with black folk in this particular moment, honest with you, because she was granting you the interview. But the reality is that she's like, look, you know, this is the way she can push back against racism in media. And she basically put a challenge out to the media outlets in Chicago and those that are covering Chicago, send me black reporters. In particular, and she said particular women of color reporters, and we'll have conversations.
Well, listen, I mean, so NABJ, thank you, Denise James, for posting the statement. National Association of Black Journalists, they applaud her activism, but they disagree. And they say that, you know, any credible journalist should be able to get the interview. And I understand why they have to say that. You know, I mean, they're colleagues with journalists of all other persuasions and colors. And so I wouldn't expect the NABJ to get drawn into this fight, right? And that's fine. You know, like as preachers, we sometimes say things that, you know, folk are like, oh, I get you, Rev, but I can't support that. You know, I'm in this industry and I can't support that call on the police or on that call on attorneys or whatever. Right. But the fact of the matter is, look, I mean, it's at a certain point, what is going to change? Let me tell you what makes me so upset. If I go, when we go off the air at 7 o'clock and I go in and I want to watch the morning news from any of the big three, you know, CNN, MSNBC, or Fox News, I'm going to see nothing but white faces, period. Now, they'll bring in a black supporting person. MSNBC is better than most. So they'll bring in my man Gene from D.C., or they'll bring Al Sharpton in if somebody got shot and killed by the cops. They'll bring Eddie Glaude in if something else tragic happened to black folk. But typically, you only go see the black people on MSNBC when something really bad has happened to black people. As though black journalists have nothing to say about the Paris Accord, or about what's going on in Israel and Palestine, or about, you know, I don't know, anything else that's relevant to what's going on in this country. And so what is it going to take to shake that up? And so while the NABJ says we can't condone that, at a certain point, you know, something historically had to happen to even get black journalists with their feet in the door to begin with at the Inquirer or places like that.
Denise says that you read on that they underscore the need for what she focused on. And part of this comes out of Lori Lightfoot is also reacting to what Trump did during his administration and how he treated the press corps, including people like April Ryan and other black reporters from black media outlets that were consistently disrespected by him and ignored by him as well. So she's like, I'm standing up for black folk. I'm for everybody that's black.
Hey, we got to take a quick break. It's 6:43. When we come back, we'll continue this conversation. And please remind me to touch on Kiera Bradford Gray's comment about the black farmers as well before we go off air. This is the Power Hour. We'll return in a moment.
Does your pre-K to 12 student need reliable internet for digital learning? The city's PHL Connected program can help by offering free internet to eligible families. To find out if you qualify, dial 211. For language services, press 8. Learn more at phila.gov/PHL Connected.
In Philadelphia, everyone is reading this year's free library One Book, One Philadelphia featured selection, The Tradition. Jericho Brown's 2020 Pulitzer Prize-winning poetry collection weaves national history with the deeply personal. Youth companion selections include The Poet X by Elizabeth Acevedo and Hey Black Child by Useni Eugene Perkins and Brian Collier. One Book, One Philadelphia features 8 weeks of programming through June 9th. Visit freelibrary.org/onebook for the full calendar of online events.
Want the latest in Word swag? Check out the shop tab on WURDradio.com. Hoodies, tees, and more in a variety of colors. The shop tab on WURDradio.com. Show the world that you're all about black. Talk media. Now, a traffic update on WURD Radio.
Good morning. This report's sponsored by SmartMouth, the only 24-hour mouthwash with twice daily use. Delays on I-95 southbound near heavy from Cottman down through Bridge through construction again. Allegheny through Girard northbound. looks pretty good. Further south on 95 near the Commodore Barry Bridge, still an accident there at the off-ramp. Schuylkill Expressway eastbound busy, Blue Route through the curve. Again past Young to Broad through construction. Westbound Broad to past Young, a little slow there against City out the Belmont light. Southbound on the Boulevard Route 1, delays there building again Broad down to Fox. Westbound Vine Expressway, Light Parkway through the Schuylkill Expressway. 55 northbound north of Deptford in the 42 getting a bit slow. Stay fresh out there with Smart Mouth mouthwash, the only Smart Mouth that provides 24 hours of fresh breath with twice daily use. So whatever the day may bring, you can stay sunny with a side of fresh. Grab a bottle today, available wherever mouthwash is sold, or visit smartmouth.com. For more traffic information, log on to sigalert.com. Jim Bachman with your Philadelphia area traffic.
You're listening to WURD Radio, 96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD, independent black media.
Welcome back to the Power Hour. This is Dwayne Royster along with Mark Kelly Tyler. And hey, we're talking about folk trying to fight to be black in America right now. Mayor Lori Lightfoot, who has determined that she's only given interviews to black reporters, and the National Black Farmers Association and others that are fighting it back against banks who said they will not give loans to African American and brown farmers in this country if the USDA continues with giving forgiveness to those farmers. So, yeah, this is a pretty interesting thing going on here right now.
Yeah, man. Well, you know, so we're going to do some on-air organizing. So, yeah, so we've got Kiera out there wanting to help, and I'm sure that others as well. Yeah, we got to follow this story up. Maybe next week we can get John Wesley Boyd on the program to come in and talk a little bit more in detail about the national scope. But I think as well, if you know black farmers in PA specifically, that's who we want to start talking to as well. I mean, if there are any, maybe there's some like black Amish.
No.
Is that a closed group?
No, actually, I mean, look, I used to be a Mennonite, so this is
that ain't close to the same.
Well, no, I mean, well, all Amish are Mennonites, but not all Mennonites are Amish.
I'm talking about. Did you drive a cart with a horse?
Dude, I was not like that. No.
Okay, that's what I'm talking. Those folk.
Yeah.
I've yet to see a black one on the side of the road going to Lancaster. I'm sorry, Tawanda, Lancaster.
So there actually, in the past, were black Mennonites or conservative old order Mennonites. So that was in the past, but it's not in the present moment. No.
Well, so I mean, Mennonite. Kwesi needs to play that beat that Bishop threatened to rap over yesterday. You know, let me just say this one thing. I see the conversation on YouTube about Mayor Lightfoot having a white wife. Yeah, what's that got to do with anything? I mean, you know, our downness, you know, had nothing to do with who we choose to, you know, to date or who we choose to marry or any of that stuff. I mean, I know people who have like who are black, who have black spouses who give two pieces of about black folk. I know people who are really, really dark skinned who don't care about black folk. I mean, that part is not, I mean, I get it, but I mean, I don't, you know, look, I think that the fact that she is using her platform to try to elevate an important conversation. I mean, that's what a lot of, I think, you know, what we try to do on the show is to bring out, you know, these stories that otherwise wouldn't be heard. And I mean, apparently then we're not the only ones who get frustrated when we look and you just see a dearth of like black voices and black faces. Who gets the prime question when, you know, the president comes out? The way that Trump just did, you know, the press and the media was just atrocious over the last 4 years. You know, Raphael is saying, well, the mayor can't do that. Apparently you can. You know what I mean? It may not be, people may not think it's in good taste or whatever, but apparently you can. And so to use your position to try to elevate important conversations that are important to black people, I think it's important. And I don't have an issue with it, honestly. I mean, it's, you know, nobody asked the other question, which is when black folk are not there and are not being represented and not asking those questions, nobody's out there like asking, why is it only white people asking these questions?
Right.
It only becomes an issue when we speak up for ourselves.
That's right. We got to fight for ourselves. Isn't that how we start the show? We fight for you.
That's right. All of you. Even if Clarence Thomas got in trouble for being black.
I don't know about that. I don't know about that.
You know, just like I do, if they fired him just because he was black, begrudgingly,
He can't get fired.
Yeah, what if they did? What if they impeached him? You can impeach the Supreme Court justice. What if they just did it just because he's black? He grew a conscience and started speaking up for black folk, and they turned on him and kicked him out. You'd fight for him.
Yeah, I guess I would. I mean, look, honestly, at the end of the day, yeah, I would fight for black conservatives too. You're right about that. I mean, the bottom line at the end of the day, you know, because part of being able to be black in America is to be whatever you want to be, even if I disagree with it. And, you know, I need to fight for your right to be able to be a black conservative that hates black people. You know, that's part of the journey, I guess. So, you know.
Well, somebody just sent me a text. I won't call their name. Say, I'm sorry, it's too late for Clarence. Honestly, I was laughing because I was looking at Tawanda in her comments. She was saying, you know, I'm fighting. I'm winning. I want everybody black to win, and I was going to put in her thread, even Clarence. Yeah, there are some people who test our theology, right?
well, look, we got to believe in the power of redemption, right? Everybody has a chance to be redeemed.
Oh, and, God.
We would, you know, we would certainly, you know, I mean, I guess at the end of the day, yeah, I would probably fight for him too if I had to.
All right, well, check this out. Here's a great story to end the show on for this Friday. Guess who is going to Tulsa, Oklahoma? Since we talked yesterday, if you missed it, you got to go hear Viola Fletcher's, her testimony before Congress in a hearing about, you know, the atrocities of what happened in Greenwood, Oklahoma, Greenwood and Tulsa. She was alive. She was 7 years old at the time, and she's now 107. So compelling, brought tears to people's eyes. But guess who's going to Tulsa to deliver the speech on the 100th anniversary?
My girl. My, and I love my wife. My crush, Stacey Abrams.
That's your crush?
Oh, man.
You said it. I don't know why you did that.
I just said, you know, my wife
knows you're going to be down in that basement after the show goes off for a while today.
No, but I mean, look, Stacey is powerful, man. I just, you know, she just, oh, man, she's just like throws down relentless. You know, she is just an organizer extraordinaire, and is just absolutely tenacious about doing everything that she does. Man, she's a powerful sister.
She is good. I mean, how dope is that, though? I mean, literally, think about it.
Oh, no,
she
it's powerful.
Man, like, you know, conservatives, like, you know, they hate her guts.
I love her more for that.
That's exactly right. Like, the more y'all hate her, the more we love her.
Man, I was willing to volunteer to be her campaign chairperson if she ran for president of the United States.
Yep. Well, she's going to run for governor.
I know she's going to run for governor. She should have run for president.
Next year.
I know. Raphael's going to be like, she doesn't have enough experience to run for president. She should have run for president. Man, I'm telling you, this woman is serious. And I'm like, she is all that.
Yeah.
You listen to her talk, and you watch, and not just listen to her talk, but see her resume and the work that she's done. She is absolutely incredible. Absolutely incredible.
Yeah, so she is, so she's going to be fired up. That crowd's going to be fired up. And what a difference a year makes, because last year, this time, you know, it was the Trump carnival rolling through Tulsa, adding insult to injury, rolling through around the Juneteenth celebration, which Juneteenth falls just a few weeks after the tragic events happened in Tulsa. Right. And so, man, I tell you, so I wish I could get there. But fortunately, it will be live streamed. Robert Garland said her sister is a judge, and no joke as well. Right on for the Abrams women.
Family, yeah. I mean, they're just very powerful people. And, you know, I hope to actually be able to get in the room with her one day just to talk with her for a little bit. Because it's just she's just absolutely incredible. I mean, the work that she's done in Georgia, honestly, you know, they gave Shirley, what's the president, the mayor of Atlanta, Keisha Lance Bottoms, a lot of credit for the Georgia win. I'm like, y'all, that was Stacey Abrams.
Who was they?
Well, when there was a lot of articles written about the power of black women in Georgia to flip the vote there, I'm like, actually, that was Stacey Abrams that did that. And Stacey Abrams, I mean, there was, you know, Nsé Fort who ran New Georgia Project, but New Georgia Project was founded by Stacey Abrams. She left, got elected to the legislature, and then after she left the legislature, started this new organization around fair elections. And so, but Stacey Abrams is the one that's really pushing for the transformation in Georgia and black folk getting out to vote. So I'm like, hey, I am down with this sister. Whatever she needs, I'm like, let's do it.
Bro, listen, her organization and operation helped Keisha Lance Bottoms retain her seat. I mean, get her seat as mayor, because the woman she fought against, man, was coming for her neck. She barely became mayor. That was a very, very close race. And speaking of which,
she's not running again. Yeah.
We never got into that. I've got some Atlantans and some friends who are like real close in that in those mayoral circles.
Yeah.
I give you some scuttlebutt maybe in a few days. I gotta kind of see where the scuttlebutt lands. It's too early to divulge what I've been hearing, but we'll see what happens in Georgia. All I will say is this: don't be surprised if you see a former Atlanta mayor run again.
Oh wow!
I'm gonna stop right there.
Okay.
Well, it ain't Maynard Jackson.
Andrew Young,
because he's passed on to glory. No, it ain't Andy. It's a young person.
Oh really? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Yep. Well, that might work. But anyway, all right. Well, look, we're out of time. That's the week, y'all. The week is wrapped up for the Power Hour. Of course, I'll be back tonight at 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. with Molly Braxton to have solutions on WURD.
The podcast.
Oh, yeah. And don't forget, Black Faith, Black Power podcast dropped yesterday. You can find it on Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, Spotify. It's Black Faith, Black Power. Check it out. Very first interview I had was with the Reverend Dr. Mark Kelly Tyler. We're talking about the future of our community and about how faith plays a role in all of that. So please check out that Black Faith, Black Power podcast. We'll try to drop a link in the chat so you can go back and take a look at it. We'll be back Monday morning from 6 a.m. to 7 a.m. to bring you the latest in news, happenings around Philadelphia, and, of course, our opinions. And we have plenty of those. Thank you, Kwesa, for holding down the boards all week long. Thank you, Dr. Tyler, for doing everything you do each and every week. Thank you to every single person that has listened to the show, whether you've listened to it on air, through the app, whether you've done it through YouTube, Facebook, Alexa. Alexa, turn on WURD.
Alexa, don't listen to him. Stop, Alexa.
We are grateful for each and every one of you. Listen, family, stay tuned now for Wake Up with WURD with Solomon Jones. And do us a favor. Go out. Change the damn world. Because if you don't, nobody will. Peace.